What's up, guys? And today I'm doing a video where I'm comparing where is like the most livable places to be on the planet, which gives you like the highest livable rate. So I'm going to do like the top 5. So it's not in no particular order at all. Like, so they're all just kind of, they all have their own perks, they all have their own benefits, whether it be weather, social impacts, or whatever. It's all up to personal opinion. But these are generally the top 5 countries that all come with their pros and cons. So the reason I've done this is that we had great success with like looking at like renting in Cork City, where we both live, also like buying a house in Italy, and also Gino's home. We've had great success. So if you like these kind of videos, just remember to hit the like button and hit the subscribe button and let us know about it, so we're not making videos that no one really wants to watch. So thanks a lot, guys. I'm going to get straight into it. I'm going to start with the first country on the list. So guys, the first country that's up here is Australia. So it's a very popular country with people moving from Ireland to UK to move down to Australia to get better weather, more opportunity, higher wages, all that kind of stuff. Is kind of a lot of the incentive to go there. So like, it's a bit about Australia. Like, it has extremely high living standards, excellent job opportunities, and a really strong economy. And it has a great financial services sector, which attracts a lot of people to it. So just a bit about Australia is like the population is 25.5 million, which is relatively low compared to the size of the entire country. Its GDP of 1.3 trillion and per capita of 52k per person. So all these figures that we're talking about, they're all in US dollars. So it's all converted to make it a bit more relevant, so we all have like conformity over everything. So a lot of like the main like job sectors that you'd be going into in Australia would be financial, insurance sector, construction, healthcare, social assistance, mining, which is a big one for particularly maybe unskilled from college educated. They might go into the mines and they make crazy money in them places. Scientific and technical services, manufacturing. So the average salary per year in US dollars is around 66k, which is just above the USA. And the education system in Australia is very good, with over 81% of adults aged between 25 to 64 at least completed secondary education. And they have major cities as well. Like, so if you want that urban lifestyle instead of having like a rural lifestyle, you have the options of Sydney, Brisbane, Melbourne, Perth, all them kind of companies, all them kind of cities. They're all around Australia. Like, so you have the option if you want to do rural, or you want to stick to them urban areas. Like, but majority of Australians do live within some proximity to the urban areas itself. So, as well, they have a lot of different like sports. Obviously, they're known for rugby, cricket, even like soccer. They host Formula 1 Grand Prix, so you've got them options too for entertainment purposes. You can go and watch all these kind of things too. And when it comes down to the actual like life expectancy of around 83 years is the average for an Australian, because they have a great healthcare system there, and like the weather obviously makes you feel better too. Like you feel like you're doing a lot better when you're in higher degree temperature rather than if you're just in the freezing cold when you're in Ireland or anywhere like that. But the cost of living here is pretty high. So you'll find that all of these are pretty high for cost of living. So if you want to do a 1-bedroom rental, is averaging around $1,969 a month in Sydney. A meal for 2 is around $75, and your transportation, if you don't have a car, public transportation is around $161 a month. So just based on rent alone, like, you can see this is a very expensive place to live. You would most likely want to be sharing this unless you're earning some crazy money. So that's just kind of a little bit of synopsis of Australia and why it is a good place to live and why it potentially isn't good costs, and it obviously has its drawbacks from that way. If you don't like hot weather, it's not going to be the place for you. If you don't like bugs, all that kind of stuff, it's not going to be the place for you either. So there also is pros and cons for being in Australia, and like obviously another thing is housing prices there are absolutely crazy. So Australia was a country that never went through the 2008 crisis, so they never got a massive reduction in prices, so they've always been continually going up. So prices there for a house are absolutely astronomical. So that kind of just wraps up Australia. So guys, the second country up here is Canada. So Canada is another one that's extremely popular to people in Ireland and in the UK as well, as it's obviously English speaking and people like to go there as a bit of a change and get the experience of North America. It's a lot easier to get into than going to, say, the USA compared to Canada and Australia. Canada and Australia are an awful lot easier to go to than going into the US as it currently stands. And like Canada is a country where the lifestyle is a lot more laid back, more outdoorsy, that kind of stuff, compared to like Australia, where you've got like a lot hotter weather and nearly all year round. But Canada also has a very high quality of life, and it's given this index and because of its healthcare, its opportunities, its education. They're all reasons of why Canada is so high up in the health and human discovery index, and has a population of around 38 million and a GDP of 1.6 trillion and a GDP per capita of 43 trillion. So if everything was fair, every person in Canada should have $43,000 a year to take home. So the main kind of like actually the job opportunities that you will get inside Canada are financial services, oil, gas, which are actually huge in the northern parts of it. They actually convert a lot of sand oil and make it into petrol and sell it essentially. But yeah, a lot of the service industry is huge in Canada, and manufacturing is another one that is huge there. But the average salary of a Canadian to take home is around 53,000 per year, which is a decent salary. It's higher than the UK, but it's a long way nearly off Ireland when you actually look at the GDP per capita of Ireland. It's crazy. So that's another video for another time. The major cities that they have there, you probably know them, is like Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, and Calgary. The sports they have there, they do follow soccer, but not to the same degree as we do over in Europe. Ice hockey is their actual native one that they do a lot of, and their currency is the Canadian dollar with a life expectancy of 82. And the cost of living in Toronto and the capital city, so we'll kind of stick with capital cities for these countries. And Toronto's the average rent of a one-bedroom flat, so if you live in there by yourself, would be $1,606 a month. A meal for two, going out, just an average restaurant, apparently around 64, which is not too bad. And transportation for the month of 125. So it's quite a lot less maybe than Australia, but then I think like the wages are definitely a bit less as well. And you're going to see some really crazy numbers when we get into the other three that we have here. Remember, this is not in any order. It's just it's up for your own decision. They all have pros and cons. So right, that wraps up Canada. So number 3 of these countries is Singapore. So Singapore is a country you probably know of as well. You probably heard about it. It's in Southeast Asia, and it's pretty much like a Western city down there, except it's like the heart of Asia, one of the biggest shipping ports you've ever seen, and it was a former British colony, so it kind of has the roots there of Western colonization. But it's been independent since the 1960s, and it's grown into an absolutely amazing city, extremely high quality of life, very, very, very good opportunities there for anyone who goes there. The wages are very, very high, the standard of living is very, very high, but it also is very, very expensive to live there. So it does come with its pros and cons, but if you are making a decent wage there, the education system is fantastic, the healthcare is fantastic, and just a bit about it is like it has a population of 5.6 million, so it basically is a city, but it's like a principality sort of thing, like Monaco, San Marino, something like that, similar kind of situation. It has a GDP of 340 billion, which gives it a GDP per capita of around 60k. 85% of people between 15 to 64 are employed in Singapore, and the major industries you can expect to get into are like electronics, chemicals, financial services, oil drilling and shipping, and also pharmaceuticals as well. The average salary in Singapore is around $53k, which is pretty good. And also the climate that it kind of comes with is obviously tropical. It can be hot, sweaty, humid, that kind of stuff can be there. So if you like that stuff, it's definitely a pro. If you like it to be hot, then it is definitely a pro. So if you're kind of going into this place in Singapore, it's absolutely amazing city. You can see it behind me there as well. It's been extremely modern. Public transport runs perfectly, all that kind of stuff, and it's definitely one to consider if you are an expat and you're looking to maybe go to Southeast Asia and you're looking to get on a very, very good wage. compared to some of the other Asian countries around there, it is definitely one to consider. And also, they do have a lot of English speakers, which is also another plus. So the cost of living here, if you're looking for downtown Singapore, average rent around 2,155 per month, which is absolutely crazy if you're living on one by yourself. A meal for two is around $60, which is not too bad. And the one that's actually quite cheap is transport. So Singapore don't like to have a lot of cars driving around, essentially. They want everyone to be using public transport. So this is probably why the cost of this is quite low. And it's quite expensive to have a car here. So that kind of rounds up Singapore, and I'll see you in the next one. The next one on the list is probably one that you've actually nearly expected to be on here, and that is Switzerland. So Switzerland is a country in Europe, but it's not part of the EU. They're part of the Schengen free travel zone and free trade zone, but they're not part of the EU, so they can run all their own monetary policies and they can basically do as they please. So Switzerland is like this country that's ever been neutral. They've never been like invaded or never been troubled by any other countries around, and it's blossomed into a fantastic country with amazing landscapes. And it's kind of similar to Canada in that respect, where if you want to see lots of different hiking trails, want to go to lots of outdoorsy places, Switzerland is kind of a similar version of that. But Switzerland is a country like no other, and it is extremely wealthy, with like obviously its main industries that you obviously know of, like luxury watchmaking, chocolates, all that kind of stuff. They also have fantastic financial services. Everyone's heard of the Swiss bank. So it is quite a diversified country, and also you get exposed to a lot of different cultures, from Italian, French, German. They're all in Switzerland, so it's a great country if you want to just go to see all that kind of stuff. And it's obviously great for economic reasons, and for opportunity there is absolutely crazy. So the GDP of Switzerland is around 748 billion, with the GDP per capita of 86k per person. So it's one of the highest in the world, if not the highest, depending on whenever you look at it. But you have a lot of them smaller countries like Luxembourg, Liechtenstein, which just have crazy GDP per capita, but their populations are so minuscule, it's difficult to actually really think about it properly. So like 80% of people are between 15 to 64 are employed in Switzerland, have a paid job. 88% of adults from 25 to 64 have at least completed secondary education. It has a good few major cities such as Zurich, Geneva and Basel. They're all extremely expensive to live in, and you'll see why. But the average salary in Switzerland is around 76k dollars, which is extremely high. So that's just the average wage. So you imagine most people that are skilled or highly skilled are earning an awful lot more money than this. So when it comes to cost of living, we're going to look at Zurich. So the average rent in downtown Zurich for a one-bedroom flat is $2,165 a month. A meal for two is $131, and transport is still kind of reasonably priced at $93. So they probably have the same situation. They don't want cars, they want to have this carbon neutral green policy, that kind of stuff as well. So Switzerland is probably a great option if you want to remain in Europe and have accessibility to all of the countries that it surround. It has great landscapes if you love our outdoorsy lifestyle, and extremely high wages and good standard living, from healthcare to education to job opportunities. So it's definitely one to consider. So that kind of wrapped up Switzerland, and on to the last one of the bunch. So the last of the bunch is actually Norway. So Norway is looked at this kind of darling of Europe and how well they've managed their economy since the 1970s. So this came in hand in part that they discovered oil in the North Sea, and they essentially manage all the profits into a sovereign wealth fund, and it's now grown to be the largest in the world, worth over around 1 trillion. So they earn interest on this and basically pays for a lot of their public services, from healthcare to individual funding and social welfare, all that kind of stuff. So they've set themselves up very well in this situation. And Norway is a country of a very small population of around 5.3 million, and a GDP of around 362 billion, which gives them a GDP per capita of around 67k per person if everything was divided out equally. But as we know, these things don't really pan out that way, essentially. 74% of people are in a job between 15 to 64, and they always have a great paid job. So it's kind of a great situation. And the education, 82% of adults in 25 to 64 have also completed their secondary education. And like their major cities, like the main one is Oslo, and that's kind of where a lot of the people would go to if they do move to Norway. They would essentially probably move to Oslo. And like the average salary in Norway is around $72,000 per month, but obviously they use their own currency of Norwegian krona, and the life expectancy in Norway is around 83 years. So this country is a very, very well developed country. You will earn quite a lot of money here from financial services and banking, obviously oil and gas, manufacturing. They have a lot of different options for you to go into. Probably maybe only one of the drawbacks is the weather is probably not the best as it's in Scandinavia. It's probably quite similar to here, if not colder than Ireland. So yeah, look, it's always something to kind of think about. If you do want to move for better weather, you probably don't want to move to Norway. But look, we'll look at the cost of living in Oslo. So the average rent is around 1,606 a month for a flat in the middle of Oslo, which is probably nearly cheaper than Dublin. A meal for two is around $117, probably on par with Dublin too. And your public transport around $93 a month. So all in all, it looks pretty attractive on paper as Norway to be nearly the best place to go, other than maybe the drawback of the weather. But yeah, it's definitely one to consider if you are thinking about heading abroad. And you obviously have great access to a lot of landscape and outdoorsy kind of stuff, similar if you're doing something in Canada. So it's definitely one to consider. So that kind of just wraps up Norway. I hope you enjoyed this. It's basically just a little synopsis of a few countries and how livable they are and what kind of money you can expect to earn in them. And if you do enjoy this, we can continue and do some other countries that you might want. So some people might think of maybe Thailand, Bali, other places like that. How livable is it, and how much money can you expect to earn if you do go and work there? But remember, guys, just remember to look at our sponsor, 35mm Vintage, and also to hit the like button and hit the subscribe button, and remember to join the free Discord. And if you do want some free Bitcoin, make sure to check out the Nexo and BlockFi links also down in the description. And thanks, guys, and we will see you in the next one.